much that it's fragmented over a minute and a half to try to get the complete thought out. That's what gets me. So,
Jonathan, how is your day going today, sir?
My day is going fine. A little hectic, a little busy, but I guess in these times that is pretty good. Better to be engaged than not engaged, given the uncertainty of the world situation. So all things considered, no complaints.
Okay, that's good, because if you started complaining, we'd have to ignore you.
That's true. Yes. So I know better. I know you guys well enough to know where my limitations are.
Where it is.
That's just me. Oh no, what have I done?
And how
So
is your
Peter,
trading
if you
been today?
mine has been shut off. I got a whopping 3 hours of sleep.
So
I don't
so
trade.
did you just call it? You don't trade at all because you're just too fatigued, right? Okay.
Yeah. Not necessarily that I'm too fatigued, but my trading account at the end of these days tells me I should not trade. So,
okay. Well, that's what reviewing your trades can do for you. I mean, that's part of the kind of the awareness situation.
They're the ones that tell me. So Peter H, you can just post your question right there in the main chat and we'll get to it if you post it in there. So I'd let all the members know that you were coming, and if they have questions, to post them there so that you can answer it, and should spark some good dialogue for us as Peter gets this set up. So Peter H is asking, he has an extreme problem with going short. I don't experience any hesitation with going long. I don't know what to do. How does he become more comfortable shorting a stock?
Well, let me just say, Peter, that you are not alone in that. I would say going back to 2005 when I started working in hedge funds, shorts, if I had to measure it, have been more of the areas of concern for people than going on the long side. So I think there's something kind of inherent about that process. I think what you have to do is you have to go back and see what it is that you have been missing on your shorts. I would imagine that if you review your trades, the hesitation comes from a history of probably being more successful on the longs. And so you really want to try to identify as best you can what has gone wrong on the short side for you. Comfort comes with making good trading decisions. So you can't create comfort, but you can create some comfort by being able to identify where the problem areas are, and then trying to take the next steps for corrective action. So I would start with that. Don't worry so much about the discomfort. The discomfort is because that you have not been successful at that. But the first step, again, is to identify where the problems may be, and then see what kind of corrective actions that you can take. And you are not alone in that area of concern, which, as they say, misery loves company as long as the company is miserable. I
hadn't heard that last part to that expression. I like it.
Yes, well, it's kind of similar to the one, which a bunch of years ago, which I liked the addition because I had used to use the, there's light at the end of the tunnel. That was very optimistic. And then you have the addendum, which is it's light at the end of the tunnel, except if that light is an oncoming train, right? Which adds another level of it. So don't be so sure that the light at the end of the tunnel is always a good thing. You got to be careful.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Where do you think that fear of taking a stock short comes from?
I think the fear has to come from probably, if you go back and see the track record, the win losses and the kind of, he's probably lost far more money shorting stocks. I think our fears are definitely directly related to how successful or unsuccessful we've been in a situation. That's true of anything in life. People are fearful of asking somebody out on a date, usually when they've had some bad experiences or feel like they've been rejected, and that's hurtful. People who are not have their ratio of success to failure is probably vastly different. So usually we need to go look back at kind of that track record and that history in the trading And again, try to identify the specifics of what may have gone wrong in the areas of the trades that we have not done successfully.
Understandable. Yeah. I've been way more successful short than I have long. I don't know why that is. I think it's the parabolic moves that happen because people get afraid when the stock starts selling off. But who knows?
I love to short, but that's me.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I'm doing it right now, but just about to get stopped out here.
But I think one of the things though with shorts too is you really got, if you're a shorting stocks, you really got to trust your stop loss and be able to know that you'll stop out, because losses can just be go on forever,
Right.
until your broker gets at you. If you don't.
Hey, Mike, I see that Captain Jack wrote a good question. I don't know if you should read it. I don't know. I'm not sure how. Does everybody have access to that, or there's some people who are listening who may not have access to that?
So our YouTube will not have access to it. They
Okay.
don't see the question. So recently went live. Oh, sorry. I'm going to have to take off the scroll always to bottom. It'll move everything. So he recently went
Hey, Mike, I see that
live after about 4 months of sim. After 2 weeks of being live, he feels blind. Cannot see the trades that he used to see. He returned to sim this week and his consistency has returned. Any advice to assist with the transition back from sim to live?
Yeah. So this is not, again, an unusual scenario. When you put real money at risk, the anxiety level kind of is created, and often people are then focusing consciously or unconsciously on the outcome, whereas in sim, maybe you're much more locked into your process and your discipline and your trading plan. So this often happens, that the money at risk, at stake, is just creating an emotional response, kind of like almost a paralysis. What I would suggest is that when you go live, you go very small size, putting very little at risk. Basically, what you want to do is to make that transition to live, so you have some real skin in the game. But you do it in such a way that regardless of the outcome of the trade P&L wise, it's not going to create the emotional volatility associated with the financial volatility that you might experience. So if you can, so that's what I would suggest as a starting point. Make those trades as small as possible from a financial point of view, therefore reducing a lot of the anxiety associated with putting real money at work, and to see if then your ability to see the trades comes back. And also what I would do on a pre-trading day kind of mental routine reminder is just to kind of anticipate that that about your anxiety, and anticipate that those feelings might come about. And so to work extra hard at kind of staying true to your trading plan, your stops, your discipline, because your process is always something you can fall back on, which helps traders, especially under duress, because it gives a sense of security and the sameness of this is what you resort to, and it takes some of the emotion out of it. So that's kind of where I would start with that plan.
Yeah. And you can also look at it too as a positive thing, Captain Jack, that you now have the experience and you know that those emotions, what you felt like. So when you're in that sim account and you don't feel those emotions, you really want to analyze, why don't you feel those emotions? It's because you aren't worried about the money. What is it that changed from live to sim? That way, when you go back to live and you know that that's about ready to come up, you can put steps in place to kind of handle it and anticipate it.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mike, because the comparison of reviewing your trades, you will see, I know you use the term, I feel blind, but there are probably things that you are continuing to see live, and then there are things that you're missing. And by recording and journaling your trades, as Mike said, you can review the pros and the cons, the things that are actually, there will be patterns there of what's taking place when you're live versus sim. And if you can more closely identify what those patterns are, the things that you're continuing to do well and the things that you're having some difficulty doing, that's going to help you hone in on corrective measures in the areas where you're having difficulty.
If I could, you're making me think the way we're using that terminology about feeling blind, Jonathan, isn't it true? I hear all the time that, from an old hunting prehistoric view, when you get into a panicky situation, when your adrenaline goes up, your vision actually narrows and you're less able to process multiple streams of data. You tend to focus in on one thing as well, which could lead to that.
Right. It's fight or flight. That does happen. And, I do a lot of work with athletes. And what's amazing with athletes when things like this, the equivalent happens and they get anxious, is that two things that happen. You see them speed up their actions. So if you watch a tennis player who's like very anxious or something, they'll just get into their serve motion much faster as opposed to not taking their time. And very often you might see them short arm a serve or not be as relaxed. So it does have a physical as well as an emotional point of view, which is why when you're feeling uptight or anxious, like being able to slow down, take some breaths, kind of step away a little, get your mind reset, because you're much better able to see the trade. You don't want to have blinders on when you're seeing a trade. You want to see it as wide as possible in all its permutations and possibilities. So anxiety can create those blinders, which could help limit your ability to see what you need to do next.
Yeah. Andy has a good question in here too. So he's experiencing a 2-week drawdown, and he's kind of wondering what he can do and kind of help dealing with it.
Well, the first thing I would see is the drawdown, consistent. 2 weeks is a long time. So I would want to go back to your trades and kind of hopefully you've been able to journal not only the specific trades, what you did well and what you didn't do well, but also the emotional psychological piece. Sometimes people have a drawdown, and the problem is that they don't really tend to it at the beginning. They don't nip it in the bud, and then what happens is it builds on itself, and the bad begets the bad. So sometimes, let's just say you had a 3-week drawdown, we might look at it as like, okay, you really had a 1-week drawdown, and then you were over trading, revenge trading, fighting it, like all bets were off, and you were just doing stuff that was clearly not helpful. You were almost totally out of your trading mode. Now you were just fighting yourself. So, there's drawdowns and then there's drawdowns. And so I think whenever we take a look at what's going on, this often happens in any kind of situation when we don't tend to it. You hear the situation in relationships. Somebody says something to you that bothers you a little bit, and then you don't say anything, and it happens 17 times, and then finally on the 18th time somebody says a minor thing and you blow up, and you treat the misdemeanor like a felony because you haven't dealt with it. Well, it started with the fact that something bothered you in the beginning and you didn't look at it, you didn't deal with it. So when this is always the willingness and the ability to be able to look kind of very openly and honestly at yourself, your strength and your weaknesses, what you're doing wrong and what you're doing right. My hunch is that drawdown probably had various phases to it, and they're very different in how to deal with them. But if you can catch them early enough, that is really the key factor to step away and identify what you may be missing trading wise, because then when it builds, you're digging yourself into a hole that's much deeper and much more difficult to get out of, both emotionally and financially.
Yeah, definitely. Let me see.
Yeah, Justin, I was hoping for the break to go the other way on AMD as well, and it didn't happen. So, oh well.
No, SPY popped back up to high of the day.
Yeah, I gave back what little I made on the previous trade. So, oh, that's all right.
So, Peter, now am I being held responsible for that, Peter? I just want to know firsthand. Have you started to lose money since I came on?
Not at all. Okay. I think you'd have some work to do with me if I'm feeling that I can blame you for my trades.
Yeah. You mean you want to book me for all of 2022? Is that where we're at? We'll do a one-on-one retreat for 12 months?
Yeah, well, I'll be clear. I am not blaming you for the trade. So far we're
Okay.
good.
There we go. That too will change.
Yeah,
Wow.
it definitely did look like the market wanted to sell off into the close, but we'll see. We'll see. So, yeah, so I think we might have discussed this last week. I can't remember about meditation and your thoughts on that. Did we talk about that?
Yeah, we did a little bit. Basically, I think anything that can help people get their mind clear and calm. Meditation is good because it helps people learn to focus kind of more kind of directly and specifically. But I think there are many ways to get to that. So I think that can be a useful kind of tool for people. Sometimes, but I think it's more important to how to create some focus and concentration and a mindfulness and a peacefulness in one's head. And meditation can be a very good thing. Sometimes people, like for me, my physical exercise in the morning kind of creates that for me. Sometimes just a little sitting back and just kind of going through my little kind of game plan in my mind and some mental reminders does that. But absolutely, meditation is something that people can practice, and a little progressive relaxation. I think all of these things, what you will find is that there's no substitute for practicing them. Reps are the key there. People who meditate, doing it every day, they get really good at it. It becomes very effective. You really shorten the time frame that's needed to get into a good emotional state. So like any of these things, I would just, if you're going to give it a shot, give it a real shot. Don't jump around from one thing to the next every few days, because some of these things take some time and repetition. Just like trading, you can't fast forward experience. For those of you who have started trading relatively recently, there's just no substitute for seeing market day after day and market conditions and trading opportunities. Experience, you just need to get that experience as a way of increasing your skill level.
Yes, time in the seat definitely helps all the way out there.
Yeah, no, there's no time in their seat. I will say that just because somebody has experience doesn't guarantee any level of success, because it's how you use your time. I've heard people say, I spent 4 hours writing my English paper in college, I should get an A. But, somebody could spend a very productive 4 hours, and somebody could be a very condensed, really locked in 1 hour and could get a lot more well-written material in the 1 hour than somebody in 4 hours. So it's not just a time factor, and it's not just experience. It's just that trading is one of those things that it's hard to fast forward. You can't shortchange the experience. You need to see enough, but that in itself is not a sufficient enough of a reason that one is going to be successful. It's necessary, but not sufficient.
Yeah, definitely.
So Nagraj is asking a question here that I think would be interesting, because it says, anyways, we'll see what you could do with it, if anything. He's saying, I make mistakes often and repeatedly until the pain is just too much. Why can't I learn quickly enough? Any advice on how to handle this?
Yeah, sometimes people do that because we tend to be stubborn. We do something and I want to do it again, and I want to do it again, and I want it to be right. So sometimes that happens because people just don't want to admit they're wrong. The best traders I've ever seen, this is from the kind of the world-renowned top hedge fund guys that I've worked with, to just very successful day and prop traders, are the willingness to admit that they're wrong. They got something wrong, let it go, and on to the next trade, and then spend some time after the trading day to kind of look at what they did wrong. But they don't view being wrong as problematic or as a bruise to their ego. They understand that being wrong in trading is an inherent part of the process, that you can't be right all of the time. So usually people that's very hard for a lot of people. They fight that. And so what I said's going on there is a fighting until like there's too many data points to suggest that it's anything other than stubbornness, and that you're losing enough money and feeling badly enough that you have a come to Jesus moment, so to speak, where you say, I need to do something about it. So I think that sometimes is a stubbornness in people. And sometimes it can be incredibly liberating. I know this sounds a little paradoxical, but incredibly liberating to admit you're wrong. Because admitting you're wrong is like, once you get out of a trade, admit you're wrong, and you kind of take away something from it, it's just like, okay, I've gained something from that. Now I can use that new information to do something better, as opposed to when you refuse to learn from it and you repeat it over and over again, you just compound the losses. And actually, more importantly than the financial piece, is that you end up devaluing yourself. That is the undermining confidence epitomized by doing that. You're putting failure on top of failure, and it devalues how you view and how you feel about yourself, and reinforces that somehow you're not good at trading. And so all of those things are really counterproductive to being successful.
Here's a good question, especially since we're getting near the end of the day. What do you recommend for a process to review your psychology at the end of the day?
So my good buddy, Brett Steenberger, in one of his books talks about a 3-column review where you can like mark down each trade and just talk about the aspects of the trade, both in terms of entry and exits, more of the technical pieces, and then also have a column where you're writing the emotional components of the trade. How you were feeling entering the trade, what you did, how the emotions. So you have basically 2 columns. And that could be very useful to review, because you could see the emotional differences in trades that were successful or not successful, or the different types of trades that you saw. So I think that if you could quickly jot down the emotions at various points on each trade, and then when you review them post trading day, you are likely to see patterns of how the emotions correspond to various types of trades and the manner in which you successfully or unsuccessfully followed through on the trade.
Yeah, I found that in my afternoon trading that when I start seeing emotional stuff pop up, I just jot it down in my journal, type it right there on the computer, and then I come back at the end of the day and review it. So,
yeah. And what I would say on that, Mike, is what's important is people don't just jot down what you would traditionally look as more of the negative emotions, the kind of when you're feeling less than great or more anxious or bummed out or something like that. Take note of your emotions on the upside too. This is very important, because sometimes you want to notice the emotions that are building confidence and making you feel better about yourself, more relaxed and comfortable, because that has an impact perhaps on the next trades you see, because you're in a more locked in, kind of focused, concentrated state. But also you want to identify, if you've had a bunch of successful trades in a row, the emotions, because all of a sudden, if you're starting to feel yourself a little too much and getting a little full of yourself, then that could lead to overconfidence, and then just kind of like the feeling that, any trade you're going to throw against the wall is going to stick. And so you want to monitor kind of the good feelings and sometimes how that could get away from us and contribute to an overconfidence, which could lead to a lack of discipline and decision-making, good decision-making in your trade. So you want to kind of just look at both sides of the coin with regard to the emotional component.
Yeah, definitely do. I got what did I do good? What did I do bad? And how can I improve?
There you go.
Section for it. And I typically find that I type more in the what did I do good than I do in the what do I do bad. So,
well, it's very important to reinforce the things that you're doing well. I mean, I also think that is especially important in days where, from a financial P&L point of view, things haven't gone well, because the emotional volatility and the emotional roller coaster that is involved in trading is so significant that, maintaining a relatively even keel sense of self is important. And one of the things during even a bad day is to be able to take note of some of the positive steps that you've taken. And even some of those positive steps can lead to trades that lose money, right? Sometimes you can get a little lucky on a trade in some ways, and sometimes you can do all the right things and the trade doesn't go your way. And That's the equivalent of, like I've said, of the baseball player swinging at the right pitch, hitting a line drive, and the outfielder catches it at the wall. They did everything right, just it didn't drop in for a hit. Sometimes that's just the nature of high performance endeavors, that this is not a situation where you're always going to feel the outcome is where you want it to be.
Yeah, definitely. Dave P is asking, he gets out of trades really early. Like today he did it 3 times that he could have had huge profits, but he parceled out too early. How does he fix this?
Well, I think there's a couple things. Usually people don't want to take losses, so they get overly anxious and get out of things early. But often it comes without a really specific plan. So the more specific a plan, the better for you. So if you're in a trade, let's say it's at 10 and you think your entry is at 10 and your target's at 15, you have to really beforehand really kind of be disciplined about where you want to get out. But there also could be, if you're finding that you may want to kind of a phased in out selling. So if it goes up to 12, I'll take 30% off. If it goes up to 13, I'll take this out. So you have a plan that allows you to reduce some of the anxiety about not losing the gains, but also kind of keeps you in the position. The other thing is that you need to work on this outside of the trading day. This is something for the pre-trading day mental reminder piece, that you have to have a process and a discipline and be ready and kind of visualize and mentally rehearse being in positions and sticking to your trading plan. This is what happens with this situation when people are not really disciplined enough in their trading plan. But one of the ways you can ease that is have a graduated aspect where you're taking some money off the table in increments, which helps ease that, both in terms of putting some money in your pocket and keeping some money in the trade to see if it could play out to your original target.
Excellent. And I think we'll end today with this question from Curl. He says, how would you describe the best state of mind to be in while trading?
The best state of mind, I will say, is kind of a pretty relaxed, peaceful state where you're not really feeling any major distractions, where you're feeling relatively comfortable with yourself. You're excited about what the market has to present. Kind of an excited, not anxiety, but like there's an excitement and an interest in what the market's going to present, and kind of being ready to kind of take that on, where you're not feeling distracted by other things, where you're kind of feeling looking forward to the challenges of what the market presents, a positive mindset of, again, of making good trades, of doing well, but in a relatively even keel where the emotional volatility is a very narrow range, and you're pretty mindful and peaceful and calm, but excited about what the day has before you and the opportunity for you to get better.
Excellent. So markets are closed right now, but thank you, Dr. Katz, for joining us this afternoon. And
you're quite welcome,
look forward to seeing you again Monday morning on the pre-market show with Carlos and Norm.
Okay, fellas. Nice talking to you. Speak to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Speak to you soon.
Take care.
Thank you.
So what we'll do, guys, we will have we'll go over just a couple of announcements. If you could cover those, Mike, and then we'll take a look at those. We got a couple of offerings that are have earnings after hours, and then we'll do a quick review of the day.
Yep. Website, Peter, just so you can see where Dr. Katz was. So today, Bear Bull Traders and podcast. Sorry, I was offset here. So we've launched our podcast. Peter is going to be doing, should have released one with our Talk with Traders here shortly, coming up on the weekend. You can get on that with Spotify, iTunes, or your favorite podcasts out there. And we'll be releasing stuff shortly next week. There should be a podcast out with Dr. Katz coming out shortly as well. So I look forward to those.
Very good.
And then for everybody out there on YouTube, if you're interested in joining Bear Bull Traders, you can try our intro membership with a code premarket24 for a discount. 1 week trial is $24. We highly recommend that you join on a Saturday or Sunday. That way you can join us Monday evening in our classroom where Carlos will be presenting the onboarding class and give you an introduction to the community and set you up for a solid week with us. And then for everybody out there is, if you want to become a lifetime member, you can use the discount code podcast for a 40% off lifetime membership.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. So I'm just taking a look at what we've got here for earnings. So there's a number of companies reporting, not many that I'm interested in. Aurora Cannabis might be interesting. I don't normally trade them. I don't like the way Aurora trades on a regular day. However, if they have big news, either positive or negative, it can affect the entire market. So CGC and Tilray are the two that I usually trade. CGC more regularly if I'm going to trade anything. So I'd want to just know what's happening in Aurora, just so I can see if there's going to be a huge, sort of move in the industry itself, because it's a fairly new industry with not a lot of players. I'm just looking to see when that news comes out. I see that Co-Diagnostics reported. They are, well, look at that, sales are down significantly. That's interesting. Meanwhile, they lost less money than expected. Huh. Well, that's interesting. That's unexpected, isn't it? I don't know. Anybody follow Codex? I don't normally look at them, but it seems to me their revenue seems down significantly. I mean, they don't have a lot of revenue to begin with. We're talking about, they're expected to make 3.4 million and they only made 1.55. But that's half. It's less than half.
AMAT, I know we've traded that a couple times. Their earnings are out.
Okay. AMAT, Applied Materials, definitely one that I look for. What's their earnings, Mike?
It looks, I'm pulling them off Earnings Whisper right now. They were estimated at 91 cents earnings per share. Their actual was 89 cents, so slightly missed on that. I do not see their revenue though. There's their sales also missed. They're 3.96 billion, and they were estimated at 4.15 billion. So, what I'm looking forward to tomorrow is JD before the market opens.
Tomorrow morning, yeah. Well, JD often gives you an indication of what some of the Chinese stocks are going to do. And let me write. I'm just writing down AMAT so I remember it for tomorrow. It might signal some move in the semis, but AMAT is not the major player, so it doesn't tend to move the others quite as much. We'll take a note on that. Couple here. Fitch, FTCH, Farfetch. Don't normally trade them. I know I've looked at it in the past. I can't say I don't think I've ever traded them. Their stock, their chart, sorry, doesn't look that bad today. Huh. Worth keeping an eye on. See if that does anything in the morning. What were their numbers? Looks like they missed on revenue, beat on earnings. So, take a note on that. Isaiah, that's a small company, low float, IZEA. CODX, I don't know what I'm surprised that they missed. revenue.
ACB, I know a few of our traders trade ACB. Their earnings are out as well. It looks their sales have increased by 19 million. They also reported that they sold 12.72 thousand kilograms of product versus 9.5 thousand last quarter. So
I like how they're measuring their productive output in kilograms of pot. I mean, that's what they sell, but it seems odd.
Doesn't seem like something that would typically be broadcasted over the
No, exactly.
airwaves.
It just feels
20
weird.
years ago.
Hey, yeah, congratulations, man! 12,000 kilos. It's 12 tons of pot were shipped. That's good. Well done. Anyways, product. Yes, product.
Product.
The BC Bud? I don't know, Dave. What's there you go. Jared's got all the terms. Agricultural mass. Yeah, that's good. No, Hans, it's not the unit of measure. It's just measuring output in kilos.
Yeah.
That's usually how cops report the seizures, not how a company reports its productivity. Times have changed, right?
Yes, they have. They have definitely changed.
So, all right. Well, those are the couple that I was looking for. I'm just going down the list to see if there's anything else that I wanted. I don't see, post market here. Not a huge amount of movement. A little volume in ACB, but nothing to get too excited about, frankly. It is moving up a little bit. I guess that 12,000 kilos was a good thing. And the rest, AMET, let's go back to that for a moment. Yeah, it's just sort of chopping around here. I said today was an interesting day. Got to give some credit to Jared, new moderator in our room. And Jared focused a lot on options, but he also does some very detailed market-based and industry analysis. And I got to give him credit for some great insight he provided us earlier today, especially on the financial services sector. He had a focus today on WFC and JPM, so Wells Fargo and JP Morgan. He came in with a perspective that they were oversold coming into the market and was looking for an opportunity. And sure enough, that opportunity presented. He managed to get the full value of this move here. And as you can see, Wells Fargo doesn't often move a lot, but if it is going to move, it's going to move off the open. And he took advantage of that move. He was able to get this play right from the VWAP down here all the way up. And then took partials across this throughout the day. So great play by Jared. Thank you so much for spending the time to explain it to the members in our room and help them understand not only your logic in the trade, but the analysis you did to put that on your list. So that was great, a great trade, and I learned a lot from listening to him as well. We were watching Cisco. I know Thor traded Cisco, and I said, to me, this thing looks boring and flat, but he managed to make some good trades out of it. He obviously played it smart and was able to take some opportunity. Cisco, to me, it doesn't normally move even on earnings. I've watched it a lot. It doesn't always move, but I guess if you're good enough, you can make an opportunity out of that. For me, I was actually playing AMD, not because it had any catalyst today, which is interesting. I played it because it's actually something I fall back to often when I don't see anything great. I didn't have a great list this morning, so I fell back to AMD, and for some reason, I was just feeling very comfortable with it, and I took a couple of trades. I took a long trade through here. I took another long there, and actually I forgot, I took a short right off the open. So I sort of took 3 trades in a row, got some great moves and some opportunities, and that was the majority of my day. The only other thing that I traded that I was very happy with was Uber. I was watching Uber as well, looking for some continuation after the news with Grub and the acquisition. It gave that move to me when I saw it break through VWAP right after the open. I took it short and got this great run down here, sort of took it all off towards the bottom. So I was very happy with that trade as well. Mike didn't trade today. I know you said you actually took a sim trade in MU.
No, that was save. That's how tired
save.
I was.
That's right. You said MU, but it wasn't. It was save, right? Let's take a look at save. So how did you trade
Right
save?
So if you go to the 1 minute chart, actually,
Sure.
you'll see right at the open.
Probably
Right at the
here off
open
of VWAP,
on the
right
1,
here.
2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, right there when it tested that VWAP, lost that moving average at the 50. I got an entry. Didn't get a great fill because it was on short selling restriction, but it was still got filled, and then held it through that little pullback, and then took partials all the way down.
Good.
So.
Excellent. Well done. I'm just noticing in our room that Mario was saying that he actually was trading ACB, so he took it for a ride up. What'd you do, Mario? 5-minute breakout. Oh, after the close, I see. So you took it around here, 680, I assume, and
Nice.
took some 50 cents off later. Well, there you go. Hey, there are
There you
trades
go.
after hours if you're bold enough to take them. So, and there's nothing wrong with trading them. You just have to be comfortable with that. So good. All right. Well, those are the main things for today. I know that we were looking at Boeing in the room as well. I didn't end up trading Boeing, but I know that Norm was looking at a couple of trades. I actually had some good moves today looking at it. You got to give Boeing sort of some margin of error, sort of a big stop loss on it. So, so that's why I usually avoid it, but I can sort of see some opportunity in it if you were if you were there watching it, I guess, at the right time. So. All right. So that's it for the day, guys. Thanks so much for being with us and for sharing the day. Shanum, if I'm saying it right, on YouTube, you're asking me for advice on BA. I really don't. I haven't been swing trading for a while, so I don't know that I have any real advice. I'm going to a longer term chart. I mean, it looks like Boeing sort of finished the day strong, and it was headed up. I mean, the SPY was, ended up with a strong day. Didn't look strong at the open. Oh my goodness, I thought we were going to have a big red one, but it's pulled back here nicely.
Yeah.
So, they both could very well be going up tomorrow. At least that's what it looks like right now. But, I don't know. I'm just going based off of, sort of the directional momentum that we closed on. So, I don't know. It's a longer term. That's why I wait till the open, and I will play what the market gives me. So, best I can do. I wouldn't be shorting Boeing though right now. That wouldn't. If anything, I would potentially consider a long. But I want to be clear. I am not trading this in either direction. But a short seems very risky with the markets closing as they did and Boeing closing sort of towards the high of the day.
Yeah. Very difficult.
Yeah. So thanks so much, as I said, for being here, guys. I appreciate it in the room for your patience today. We had lots of stuff going on, and we had Jared on the mic for a little while, which was new, and then we gave you some quiet, reflective time before I joined this afternoon. Mike, thanks for being here. Dr. Katz, thank you for joining us as always, providing your perspective. It was great.
Thank you, everybody out there in YouTube.
Yeah. And we will see you back in the room tomorrow, as always, for the